So good morning. This morning we are talking about cataloging kits, and Ian Anderson and Aaron Rose will be presenting. So take it away, guys.
Pam, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I am Ian Anderson, a cataloger for the CMC, and I am here with my colleague Aaron Rose, the metadata cataloger for the CMC, and we are going to talk to you about the process of cataloging kits. There are a few different resources that we reference when creating this presentation, and most came from OCLC's bibliographic formats and standards. We will be happy to answer questions after the presentation. So what do you do now? You have received the materials to catalog and you think that you have a kit. First, assess the materials to see if you do in fact have what qualifies as a kit. To start, let's define a kit. According to OCLC bibliographic formats and standards, under type of visual material, a kit is a mixture of components from two or more categories, i.e. sound recordings, maps, film strips, etc., no one of which is identifiable as the primary constituent of the item. This also includes the packages of material called laboratory kits and packages of assorted materials, such as a set of K through 12 social studies curriculum material, all books, workbooks, guides, activities, etc., or packages of educational test materials, tests, answer sheets, scoring guides, score charts, interpretive manuals, etc. If an item has a predominant component, it should not be cataloged as a kit. Instead, it should be cataloged in terms of that component, with details of the subsidiary component or components given as accompanying material following the physical description or in a note. For example, a video with an accompanying booklet, a book with an accompanying puppet, or a puppet with an accompanying book. You typically want more than two elements when cataloging something as a kit. How do you catalog it? After looking over the definition of a kit and deciding that you do have a kit, it's time to look at how to catalog. We will look at how this process is similar to and differs from cataloging a book. In cataloging a kit, you will notice that there are similarities and differences versus cataloging other materials, especially books. This is seen most predominantly in the fixed field elements and the 300 and 500 fields. Fixed field elements include type, which is type of record, which is coded as lowercase o. EMAT, which is type of visual material, which is coded as lowercase b. The 300 field is the description field, physical description field. The 500 field is the general note field. We will talk about these fields and elements in the upcoming slides as we work through the process of cataloging a kit from start to finish. The fixed field elements in a book catalog records contain specifically coded information that identify the materials being cataloged. This is an example of what the fixed field elements look like for a book catalog record. In this record, you see that the type of record dropdown or the format dropdown box is set to books. Type, kind of material, is coded as lowercase a, which is books or language material. Bibliographic level is coded as lowercase m, which is monograph. You also have fields for content of materials, illustrations, conference publication, festschrift, biography, and literary form. When cataloging a kit, the format drop-down box in the fixed field elements should be set to visual materials. The type of record seen in the fixed field header as type and type of visual material seen as TMAT will be coded to indicate that they are kits. Fixed field element type characterizes the type of material being cataloged. This field is coded as lowercase o, which is specifically kits. Fixed field element TMAT indicates the type of visual material being described. This field is coded as lowercase b, which is also specifically kits. When you select type O, visual materials kit, you will gain 3 fixed field elements that aren't typically available when cataloging a book. Fixed field elements TMAT, tech, and time here should be coded for the kit record as a whole. Fixed field elements for the individual components, video, sound recording, book, etc. are coded in the 006s. You will see TMAT or type of visual material, which we just discussed. You will also see the appearance of tech or technique, which is the technique used to create motion for motion pictures and video recordings. This would be coded to indicate animation, live action, etc. if there is a video recording component within a kit. If there is not a video recording component within the kit, the field is coded as lowercase n for not applicable. Time, or running time, is the running time for video recordings. Time applies only to video recordings. If there is not a video recording component to the kit, the field is coded as lowercase 3 n's for not applicable. In turn, you will no longer see fixed field elements that you may be used to seeing when cataloging books. This is because these fields do not apply to visual materials. The fields are content of materials, illustrations, conference publication, festschrift, biography, and literary form. Moving on from the fixed field elements, we will take a look at the 0xx, 1xx, and 2xx fields, and how kit catalog records are similar to books and how they differ from books in these fields. This is an example of the 0xx, 1xx, and 2xx fields for a book. Most of you are probably familiar with these fields already, so we will not go into detail on them. Many of these fields are reflected in kit catalog records, which we will look at next. Differences of note on the kit record versus the book record are the 006 field is present, which is used to code additional material or characteristics. The 007 field reflects additional physical characteristics. We will discuss the 006 and 007 fields in more detail in an upcoming slide. There are multiple 020 ISBN fields to reflect each of the items possessing an ISBN that are found within the kit. The 024 field is other standard identifier, and in this case reflects UPCs for multiple components. The 028 field is the publisher or distributor number, which is repeatable. Include one for all applicable materials found within your kit. The example has 028 for each of the DVDs in this kit. 041 is the language code, which will reflect the language of the materials. In this case, some materials are in English and/or Spanish. The 245 field title statement is where the title goes. When entering a title for a kit, you will either derive this directly from the container, potentially a container list, or you may have to create one yourself. If you have to create one yourself, you will enclose the title in square brackets and then put a note in a 500 field stating title devised by a cataloger. Another thing worth noting is that we do not see a 100 field in this record. This is because catalogers will not include a 100 field when cataloging a kit, unless the materials all have a single author and/or creator. Instead, there will be 7XX fields included to reflect all applicable authors and/or other creators. Looking at the records side by side, we can see the similarities and differences that we just discussed. Similarities are that both records have 007, 040, 020, 043, and 245 fields. A notable difference is that the kit has 006 fields. 006 and 007 pull data directly from the fixed field elements. These elements describe additional characteristics when multiple formats are present in a resource and access to the additional characteristics is deemed important. This occurs commonly with kits since they are comprised of multiple items in different formats, all of which are worth noting. 006 field is used to code additional material or characteristics that cannot be coded in the 008 field, and the 007 field reflects additional physical characteristics. Additional MARC 006 and 007 fields may be added as needed. For example, if the set included a substantial book, MARC 006 for the book could be added. For more information about fixed fields, specifically the 006-008, refer to OCLC's bibliographic formats page regarding fixed fields. Next, we will discuss the physical description fields, and I will now turn it over to my colleague, Aaron.
Okay, so according to AACR2, there are two possible ways to describe the physical elements of a kit. These are reflected in the 300 and 500 fields and may vary based on the materials within the kit that you are cataloging. Kits often have many notes within their catalog records. 300 field, or physical description field, is where you will include the extent of the item and its dimensions. When cataloging a kit, you will list the items found within the kit as seen in the 3 examples on this slide. When listing the components, separate each component with a semicolon. If it is not practical to list all of the pieces or components in the 300 field, you can use a general term. In the top example on the slide, rather than listing details about the contents of the kit, there's a very generalized description of what is there. So 1 kit in red drawstring bag, 59 by 40 centimeters. The second and third examples contain a brief general listing of what is in the kit along with the quantities. And the second example has a period at the end of centimeters, the centimeter symbol, because there is a 490 series statement in the record. Looking at the 500 field, a description of the kit will be listed within it, or multiple 500 fields. This is the general note field, and it's where you'll enter a note that provides general information for which a specialized note field, i.e. a specific 5XX field, has not been defined. For a kit, we use the general note field to further explain the contents of the kit or to give more information about the individual components. If individual pieces, such as books, DVDs, sound recordings, etc., have separate titles that may be considered important, they should be included in a separate 500 note and have an added entry made for these titles. In this example, there are two 500 fields, one to describe the book that's within this kit and another to describe the other individual components, a lot of them. The second 500 field in our example is far more detailed than the original 300 field in order to outline the numerous accessories included within this kit, which would have been too excessive to describe within the 300 field. So here you can see how exactly the 500 fields expand on what is summarized in the 300 field within the same record. So the 300 has the one doll, one book, one journal, 6-piece pajamas set, etc. And then the 500s actually have more information about what the book is and what the kit includes. So it's not just one doll, it's one American doll, Melody, and then a description of her and so on. We just discussed the 500 field, but there may be other applicable 5XX fields that should be included in your record when cataloging a kit. Some of these notes fields are the 505, which is the formatted contents note to reflect a table of contents or finding aid if it's present within your kit. A 508, which is the creation production credits note, or a 511, the participant or performer note when you have a video recording component within your kit. 520, which is the summary, etc., which is an unformatted note that describes the scope and general contents of the described materials. You'll use this for an abstract, annotation, review, summary, or a phrase describing the materials. A 521, which is the target audience note to reflect the appropriate target audience for the kit. And a 546, which is a language note to specify the language of the resource. These are just a few examples of what you may encounter when you're cataloging a kit, but there are more than 55 XX fields, so you'll want to be aware of what you have in hand and what descriptive note fields exist that will help you reflect the unique components that you're cataloging within your kit. For a full list of the 5XX note fields and how to use them, they can be found on OCLC's bibliographic formats page for 5XX fields. Now we're going to talk about additional fields that we haven't discussed yet and how they'll be handled differently when cataloging a kit versus cataloging a book. The next 3 slides, I'm going to go over them pretty quickly, but we will go into more detail about the fields on upcoming slides. So please be patient with me. So this is a gigantic amount of fields in a book record. It shows a really good amount of 6.5x fields. And the kit record, compared to the book record we just looked at, has even more 3.3x and 6.5x fields and the appearance of multiple 7.7.7 fields. We actually had to include 2 separate screenshots in this slide for this one record to include all of the 3.3x, 6.5x, and 7.7.7 fields that are in this record. And it just illustrates how much detail goes into cataloging a kit. So, can look at them side by side, you will see that both records are fairly substantial, but the kit record is very substantial in comparison to the book. So now we're going to look a little more closely at the different fields that are reflected here. So the 264 field, which is the production, publication, distribution, manufacture, and copyright notice, is the statement relating to the publication, printing, distribution, issue, release, or production of a work. The top screenshot reflects what the 264 from the book we've been looking at is, and the bottom screenshot is from the kit that we've been looking at in previous slides. Some pre-assembled kits will have publication information on the container, and you'll enter this information in your 264 field when it's available. But a lot of times, a kit has been assembled by a library, and you'll enter the library's information as the publication information. So in subfield A, you'll enter the city, state that the library is located in. You'll enter the library's name in subfield B, and then the year that the library assembled the kit in subfield C. All of these individual details will be placed in square brackets within their appropriate subfields, as you can see in the bottom screenshot. If you do not know when the library assembled the kit, then you'll use your cataloger's judgment, or you can ask the library to enter the date with a question mark if you don't know from the library. And you'll, again, put that in square brackets. So looking at the 336, 337, and 338 fields, you can see on the left screenshot, it shows the 3.3x fields from the book, and the right, again, is the kit 3.3x fields. So the 3.3.6 field, or content type, is the form of communication through which a work is expressed. The 3.3.7 field, or media type, reflects the general type of intermediation device required to view, play, run, etc., the content of a resource. And the 3.3.8 field, or carrier type, reflects the format of the storage medium and housing of a carrier in combination with the media type. All of these fields are repeatable, and multiple content types should be recorded in separate occurrences of that field. As you can see, the book and three-dimensional objects within the kit each have their own set of 336, 337, and 338 fields. If your kit contains a video recording or audio recording, you will need to include appropriate 3-4x fields. For questions on how to enter the 3-4x fields, you can refer to the CMC's previous presentation on the topic titled 3-4x and 538 MARC fields from April of 2019. Looking at the 6xx fields, the screenshot on the left shows the subject access entries and terms for the book, while the screenshot on the right shows those of the kit. As you can see, the genre form terms are more plentiful in order to reflect the multiple formats found within the kit, while still possessing most of the same subject heading terms from the book. And as we had mentioned earlier, kits tend to have multiple authors and/or creators. Because of this fact, when cataloging a kit, you will want to omit a 100 field and instead create 7xx fields to reflect all authors and/or creators that contributed to the creation of the kit's components. The left screenshot, both of these are really tiny, the left one credits the primary creator, in this case the author of the book, whereas the right screenshot shows the multiple contributors credited in the creation of the kit. In this case, the DVD component has a translator for the 2 languages that were involved. So there is an English and Spanish version. The 777 field, or issued with entry, has information about the publications which are separately cataloged, but that are issued with or included with the target item in a horizontal relationship. With a kit, a lot of times in books, DVDs, CDs, etc. are included, and they may already possess catalog records in OCLC. This is where you would reflect those included items. Also, in connection, you can create a 777 field by utilizing the Insert from Cited Record shortcut. To do this, you will create a new 777 field, enter the appropriate indicators, and then type the OCN for the record that you would like to cite. Once you have typed in the correct number, you can go up to the Edit dropdown and select Insert from Cited Record. This will automatically fill in the proper subfields and information for you. It's very handy. Now we're going to talk about GMDs. They would be reflected in the 245 field after subfield H, and you will enter the material designation in square brackets after subfield A. However, OCLC's bibliographic formats and standards states that a GMD is a medium designator used in the title statement under Anglo-American Cataloging Rules, 2nd edition, so what we know as AACR2, and some earlier cataloging instructions. Do not use GMDs in bibliographic records. Prefer use of content, media, and carrier terms, or codes in the fields 336, 337, and 338 instead. OCLC began removal of existing GMDs from bibliographic records in March of 2016. You should check with your local your institution to see what their local policies regarding GMDs are, however, before disregarding them. Just as an example, we have included a snapshot of a GMD that is in one of our Polaris records, just as an example to show how it would be entered should your institution require the use of GMDs. You will still never include GMDs in OCLC records. You'll only add them within your local catalog should the entry be required by your institution. Now that we're done going over the components and the technical parts, we're going to look at some kit catalog records that have been cataloged by the CMC. This is an example of the Moods and Emotions Kids Kit, number 70. And if you look at the 020 fields, you'll see the ISBNs for the books that are within the kit, and then an entry in the 024 field, which was found on the box of the mirrors, and this is the UPC. This is the Let's Go Fishing Kids Kit number 71. It has a 500 field to specifically describe the hand puppet in more detail. I'll just give you a sec to look at that. And the last kit we're going to show you is the American Girl Melody Kit, which Kids Kit number 72. And it has multiple 500 fields to describe the kit, including that extensive second 500 field that we saw before and we see again here. And it describes each of the components within this kit in greater detail. And I know that the slides will be available later on, so you can look at these a little more if you are very interested in seeing them later. That's the end of our presentation. When compiling the information in this presentation, we relied most heavily on MARC 21 format for bibliographic data and the OCLC bibliographic formats and standards. There are other resources that have a lot of valuable information, and ones we'd like to mention are Cataloging of Audiovisual Materials and Other Special Materials by Nancy Olson, Robert L. Boffman, and Jessica J. Schomburg. I do want to note that this book was published in 2008, so it's pre-RDA guidelines. However, it does include a good number of definitions and understanding into what does and does not qualify as a kit, and what information might be valuable to the process. Other resources are Kit Cataloging by Special Libraries, Cataloging Three-Dimensional Objects and Kits with RDA by ALA and ALCTS. There is both a presentation slides, and a recording on YouTube, and those links are on the slide. And Required MARC Fields and Description Kits by Sage Library. So we want to thank you for your time. On the call with us today are Vince, Sherry, Shelley, and Pam. If you have any questions about kits, you can put them in your chat box or unmute yourself and verbally ask your question if you're feeling really brave. And just remember to mute yourself after your question has been answered if you do decide to go with the verbal questions. Once we've answered any questions that you have about kits, we will answer any questions related to cataloging that you may have. And if you have questions after we are done today, you can feel free to email the CMC at the cmc@illinoisheartland.org address that you can see on the slide.
Thanks, Ian and Erin. This is Pam again. We don't really have any questions right now, so I'll just remind you that next month, Sherry will be presenting on foreign language. That will be on December 19th. And doing rare books on January 16th, Vince and Erin will be presenting. And the slides are available on L2 right now, but after the presentation, I'll put the slides with the notes on there. Okay, so we have a question, cataloging locally created kits. My understanding is that most libraries only create records of this type, an artificial kit locally produced, not published, in their local database, though some do create records in OCLC. Is either option correct?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know the answer to this. Ian, do you know? Does anybody else know? Otherwise, I can look at it and get back to you.
I can answer for us because the CMC catalogs things for all libraries in Illinois, so we create records in OCLC because we don't, unless if it was for a share library, we don't have access to create those in the local LSAP database.
This is Sherry. You can catalog them as just in your database if you want. That's up to the institution that's cataloging the item. There's no rule that it has to be an OCLC. The only thing is if it's not an OCLC, you can't share it globally or whatever, which you may not want to share your kits that way. So
right.
It's kind of like an equipment record. You don't necessarily have to put equipment records in OCLC.
Right. Okay. The second question, are Dewey numbers not usually assigned to a kit?
Good questions.
This is Sherry. I always assign Dewey numbers because we're the CMC.
Right.
If you're cataloging your kits individually in your at your library, like the previous question was, that's up to you. But if the CMC is doing it, we will add a Dewey number.
Right.
Okay, then we have a really long question, so hang with me. I noticed that the 777 field is usually given with subfield W, the OCLC number, which brings my question. Concerning the 777 issued with entry field, if you look in bibliographic formats and standards, 7XX fields on the page for 76X through 78X, linking entry fields, general information, this definition is provided. A linking entry describes separately cataloged publications that are related to the item you are cataloging. My question is this: if some items of your kit are not separately cataloged, say for example a toy model of the solar system that is part of a stargazer's kit, then would you say the information describing the toy model is to be put in 5XX and 7XX fields and not in the 777 field?
So I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule. I know that when I have been on cataloging kits, if there isn't an existing catalog record or it's something that you might not catalog, I've put it into the 5XX and then use the 777 for other catalog materials. But I don't know of any rule. I'm sure there is one. Because we are catalogers and there are rules.
Well, and if it's not, if some of the items are not separately cataloged, then would there be anything to link to, I guess, is my question.
There wouldn't.
Okay. So,
I don't think there would be.
Right.
I mean, if it's like a book component that should be cataloged on its own that exists outside of the kit, I would say create a record for that, and then you can link it through the 777.
Right. If there was a separate record for the book, then you can link that to the kit. Yep. Got it. Okay.
For cool materials like a Stargazer's kit
Yes.
system model, I would do it. I would enter it into the 5XX fields.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Robert? These are really good questions. If anybody else has a question, please put it in the chat box or, okay, you said yes. Or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask it verbally. Okay. Okay, so we've got another question from Robert. The 520 summary, etc. field has optional subfield U, Uniform Resource Identifier. And also there is the 856 electronic location and access field has this guideline. Input generally accessible URIs whenever possible. Do you recommend putting URLs in bibliographic records for kits? I believe they are useful for providing images of kits components when those images are available on the manufacturer's, publisher's, distributor's webpage, or secondly, when on Amazon.com. They are useful, that is, depending on a local library automation system's ability to display.
I'm reading over the question again.
Yep, that's okay. Yep, there's lots of words.
Because there are a lot of words.
He's asking really if you recommend putting the URLs in the bibliographic records for kits.
I don't see the harm in it. My only concern is like for Amazon, you run into link rot.
Okay.
Where the link no longer linked to what you're linking to.
Right.
When I say link. So, I mean, that's something you might have to worry about later on. It's not like we go back and play with our catalog records on a regular basis, unless you do. And if you do, high five. That's great. But, I mean, I would include a URI if it was something I wasn't worried about rotting in the near future.
Okay.
Because links are great. They are great if you can just click on, we love to click on stuff and it'll bring us right to what we want. But I also just like to practice caution when doing it.
And Elizabeth Pratt says, right, the links might break over time. And their LSEPs might be able to run a report with broken links. Hopefully they don't have to manually check those.
Oh gosh.
But again, it's having the staff that can go in and fix the broken link or put a new link in.
Right.
So, good question.
I hope that answers the question.
And I agree. I mean, especially in a kit, it's nice to have those links, especially to images so that you can see what parts are in those kits.
Yeah.
Especially if you can't look it up in a library's database if there's no images there to look at.
Right.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions about cataloging kits? give you a minute or two. We will be sending the link to the recording out. It might be slightly delayed because our person who does that is on vacation. So it might not happen until early December. So just bear with us on that. And also do not forget to fill out the evaluation on L2. That really helps us if you can give some honest feedback. We appreciate that. Okay, Paul asks, how would a cataloger address a kit when an item goes missing and can't be replaced as far as the record is concerned?
Ooh.
I think you could just put a note.
Yeah.
In your local database that whatever part is missing, and state specifically what that part is.
I agree.
Donna says, I did catalog 5 kits from a publisher in OCLC, but I didn't know about the 777 field. Should I go back and add them now? I just did this a month ago.
I don't think it would hurt to go back and do it. You can.
Okay, and Elizabeth Pratt says, or alter the record if it's a locally built one with the replacement object. She's referring to the question about Paul. If there's a missing part, yes, you can do that.
Really?
Okay, and Donna says she will do that. Yes, go ahead.
In response to Paul, a lot of libraries will mark on the actual kit that something is missing and note it there. They don't actually change the bibliographic record because somebody else may have built another kit or use that record, so you don't want to change it in case somebody else has used it.
Well, if they can change it in their local database, then they can.
Even so, though, it's like if another library in the system has built a kit, you're changing a record that somebody else may have used the same books and everything to build
yeah, if it's held by other libraries,
right.
Yes. And I know they do mark them, but that's usually for circulation too. So like they're not charging every patron for, like if whatever part's missing. So, because I know they're supposed to count those items when they're checking them out. But good point, Vince. Yeah, if you're part of a consortium, you need to be careful.
Hi, this is Sherry. I hate to bring this up, but could you go back to your slide where you were showing the several records with the 300 field?
Oh gosh, yes. Give me a sec to.
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe 10 slides ago or something.
Yeah. I was just trying to the three where it was multiple 300.
Yes.
Each other? Okay. This one, right?
This one, yes.
Okay.
So I see a conflict here, which I don't understand. In the second 300, you have each component separated by a comma. In the third one, you have them separated by a semicolon. It's conflicting, and I believe that the comma is the correct way to do it and not the semicolon. And I just wanted to know, unless it's, you can do it both ways, but with punctuation the way it is, it's, I'm thinking that they probably don't allow you to do whatever you want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's a comma.
So you think that third one is wrong?
I think the third one is wrong.
So it should be 5 books, comma, 6 wooden eggs with plastic.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But it's just more in the slides. You have a conflict there, so that's why I wanted to have you find out what is correct and correct your slides for when you release them.
Yes, we will do that, and we'll make sure. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gosh.
Yeah. Sorry to bring that up, but
I appreciate it. That's good. Remember that we didn't catch it before you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, and Amy says, thank you, Sherry. I was wondering about that also. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about cataloging kits? If not, then we can take general cataloging questions. Or maybe you just don't have any more questions at all. Dina says, good job, Ian and Aaron.
Thanks, Dina.
Thank you.
Again, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself or just type in the chat box. Okay, so C. Drillinger says, also on this 300 field slide, you said that the second example has a period because there's a 490 field. What's the correlation between a series statement and a period in a description field? Well, you put a period after the CM in the 300 field if you have a 490. That's just the RDA guideline.
Yep.
But that's the only time you put the period after the CM in the 300. It's just one of the fun RDA things. Maybe that's what we should do a presentation on, fun RDA things. Sorry. So again, don't forget to fill out the evaluation on L2. If you have topics that you would like us to cover in the future, please let us know. We've got 2 more presentations left for this fiscal year, foreign language in December and the rare books in January. Oh, Amy says that would be interesting. Yes, it would, Amy. But it might take too long. I don't know. We could probably keep it shortish. Anybody else have any questions about cataloging kits or just cataloging in general? If not, then I would like to thank Ian and Aaron for doing their presentation today. And hopefully you guys can join us in December and January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.